small voice that whispers, "There's a message here, but I can't get it." And now you are here, and it's not an accident. The universe doesn't waste synchronicities, it only speaks to those who are ready to truly listen. If this video is before your eyes, it's because a part of you, the deepest part, the part that knows the truth even before you understand it, has already begun to awaken. Stop believing in chance. It doesn't exist. Every detail, every apparent coincidence is the work of a superior intelligence that weaves the fabric of your existence. An invisible force that speaks to you through symbols, numbers, encounters, even through obstacles. But only those who have learned to read can hear it, and when you finally decipher this language, reality itself transforms before your eyes. The ancient alchemists knew this well. They called this art the symbolic reading of reality, the ability to see beyond the veil of appearances. Those who mastered it stopped being pawns and became creators. They no longer suffered life, they wrote it. This video is your map to access that lost knowledge. If you stay until the end, you will understand that nothing you have experienced was in vain. Every failure, every turning point, every moment of confusion had a precise purpose, to prepare you for this moment. And now, answer me. If these words have touched something in you that you can no longer ignore, like right now, it's not just a click, it's a signal, our silent pact. Without it, this message will disappear into the noise of the web, and perhaps someone who desperately needed it will never find it. But if you do, I will know that you are truly ready, that we are already connected, and that what comes next, well, it will only be the beginning. So, are you willing to join the game? The universe has already begun to speak to you and wants to transform you. What we do not face within ourselves, we end up meeting as destiny. The symbol is not outside, waiting to be deciphered. It is like a secret mirror that reveals itself only when you are ready to truly look at yourself. There is no point in looking for signs in the sky, in the cards, in the numbers, in the stars, if you have not yet made an internal decision to move towards your transformation. Because symbols are like lights on the path, but they only make sense to those who have already started walking. Think about it with me. A road sign is only useful to those who have a destination. Those who have no direction, those who live in automatic mode, will look at the same symbol and see nothing. They will walk past without noticing. They will laugh. They will doubt. They will call it a coincidence. They will say that it is only a figment of their imagination, because the symbol, however clear, remains invisible to those who are still stuck in immobility. And why does this happen? Because the symbol is not a thing. It is a bridge, a connection between the visible world and the invisible, between what you experience outside and what is ready to awaken inside you. And this bridge appears only when you decide to cross it. It is like a portal that opens only for those who are brave enough to cross it. This is where many people go wrong. They think that seeing is believing, that the signs will convince them to change. But it is the opposite. First you decide. First you set out on your journey. And then, yes, the universe begins to respond. The signs appear because your vibration has changed, because you are now tuned to another frequency, higher, more conscious, more aligned with who you came here to be. Here is an important point. A true symbol never points to the ego. It never validates escape. It never serves as an excuse for complacency. It does not say, "Stay as you are." It says, "You can be more." It invites. It pushes. It moves. Every true symbol points to your best version, the fullness of the human condition. And what is this fullness? It is when you begin to embody virtues, when you choose the truth even when it hurts, when you practice good even without applause, when you seek balance even in chaos, wisdom, justice, presence, compassion. All these are expressions of the awakened soul, and these are the qualities that the symbols of life want to activate in you. That is why a symbol is not an easy answer. It is a profound proposal. It does not give you a shortcut. It shows you a path, and above all, it reveals what is in disharmony within you. It shows you where you are still denying your light. It illuminates the shadows you don't want to look at. It's like a magic mirror that says, "Do you want to change the world around you? Start in here," because there is no symbol that can save someone who hasn't decided to save themselves yet. The universe can send 1,000 signs, but if you don't want to see, you won't see. You'll call it coincidence. It will say it has nothing to do with you. You'll continue to live on automatic mode. That's why symbolic language is secretive. It's not secret out of malice, it's veiled out of respect. Because only those who have chosen to grow have the eyes to see it. Only those who are tired of surviving and truly want to live. Only those who have understood that they can no longer pretend not to hear the call. And when you understand this, something inside you begins to change. Your entire life stops feeling like an unjust battlefield and begins to reveal itself as a precise school. A school that knows you better than you know yourself, that knows exactly where your wounds are, your blocks, your unresolved fears. And this is where the pedagogical language of existence comes into play. Life does not punish, life teaches. And it teaches with the patience of a silent teacher who repeats the lesson as many times as necessary. The same situation returns. The same type of person appears. The same pain returns because you have not yet understood, because you have not yet seen what you were meant to see. Marcus Aurelius, emperor and Stoic philosopher, said that nothing happens to man that is not part of the human experience. This means that every experience you have is molded just for you, tailor-made. It didn't come by mistake. It came because you, on a deep level, attracted it. Not out of guilt, but out of a need for growth. It's as if you came into the world with a secret curriculum, a soul program, a series of experiences that your consciousness requested before incarnating. You came with specific points to develop: patience, courage, detachment, self-love, responsibility. And every scene of your life is built around these invisible goals. When you complain about something that keeps happening to you, you may not realize that it is not life that chases you, it is life that teaches you. And it insists because it loves you. It does not punish you, it molds you. But it will not stop the lesson until you demonstrate that you have learned it. It may seem harsh at first, but it is liberating. Because when you realize this, you stop feeling at the mercy of the world. You take the reins of your inner journey. You look at a frustration, a rejection, a loss, and instead of asking yourself, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking yourself, "What is it trying to show me?" And that's when life changes tone, because now you are no longer in the role of the victim, you are in the role of the awakened student. And when that happens, the same events take on a different meaning. What was pain becomes a portal. What was confusion becomes a code. What was punishment becomes a healing tool. Nothing that happens to you is random, and if it happens, it's because there is something to reveal. But there's more, because when you ignore the first lesson, when you pretend it doesn't concern you, when you refuse to look deeply, life turns up the volume. And what was a whisper becomes a scream. It is what many call the jolt of fate, that extreme situation that forces you to stop. Illness, separation, failure, emotional crisis. None of this comes from nowhere. They are cards marked by a superior pedagogy that you did not want to read in the first lesson. It is life that says, "The time has come, now you have to see." And this is not a punishment, it is a reminder, an invitation to wake up from the anesthesia, to come out of the torpor of the automatic pilot. Because if you haven't listened to the signal, life will knock on the door. If you don't open it, it will knock louder. And if you still pretend not to hear, it will break down the door. Synchronicity. When the universe shakes you off your shoulders, and when that cry of life finally hits you, it no longer comes disguised. It comes direct, without sweeteners. It shakes you off your shoulders and forces you to look. You might even try to ignore it, Rationalize it. Say it was just a coincidence, but deep down, something inside you knows it was for you, that it was a sign. It was the universe saying, "Wake up." Now, this is where the phenomenon of synchronicity comes in. Carl Jung called it a meaningful coincidence, an experience in which two or more events connect so precisely, so specifically, that a logical explanation cannot cover it. There is no apparent cause between the parts, but there is a meaning, there is a message, and you feel it in your body. It is as if time stops for a moment and says, "Look closer." Maybe you were thinking about someone you haven't seen in years, and that same person calls you that day. Maybe you were hesitating about a choice, and suddenly you hear someone say exactly what you need, out of nowhere, on the street. Maybe you were lost, and a song, a phrase, a butterfly, a repeated number, a word in a randomly opened book gives you exactly the answer you couldn't find on your own. There's no way to explain it, but you know it touched you, that it was for you, that it was tailor-made. And that's not delusion. That's not self-deception. That's not superstition. That's synchronicity. And the more you wake up, the more it manifests. The universe starts talking to you on another frequency, as if saying, "Now you're paying attention. So let's dive deeper into this conversation because I have a lot to show you." But there's one detail that almost no one tells you. Synchronicity isn't just poetry, it's an urgent message. It appears when you've taken too long to understand the subtle signs, when you've already ignored the slight discomfort, the recurring dreams, the internal warnings. It's when life understands that you need a stronger push, because you're stuck at a point on the path where you shouldn't be anymore. And that's when coincidences become too powerful to be coincidences. In the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, Santiago begins to notice signs from the universe when he decides to follow his dream. He meets people along the way who tell him exactly what he needs. He witnesses events that prepare him for the next step, but everything only begins to happen when he makes the decision to act, to change, to obey the call. And when he hesitates, the universe sends new signs, with more intensity, with more urgency, because that's what synchronicity is. It is the soul of the world trying to remind you of your purpose. Jung believed that the collective unconscious manifests itself through these events, that there is an invisible network that connects all things, and when you align yourself with your path, that network begins to respond to you, as if the universe conspires in favor of those who have finally started to truly listen. Because when you start to see these coincidences, a new level opens up. And this new level reveals to you a hidden pattern, a repetitive cycle that you must break for true transformation to occur. And when that new level opens up, what was previously unnoticed begins to shine with a different light. It's as if your eyes change focus, as if the ordinary reveals its true nature, sacred, symbolic, revealing. Life stops being just what happens outside and begins to show itself as a living language that manifests itself in the details. And if you pay attention, you'll notice that it speaks all the time. It speaks in the pauses, in simple objects, in the small scenes that no one notices. The universe doesn't always choose big events to communicate. It often prefers the smaller ones. A glass that falls, a delay in transportation, a flower that grows between the cracks in the sidewalk, a storm at the exact moment your mind goes into turbulence, a puddle in which you see yourself reflected without wanting to. The language of life is poetic but precise. It is symbolic but direct, and it is everywhere. There is an ancient teaching that says that nature never wastes a moment. Everything that exists has a reason for being where it is. Every stone on the ground, every leaf that falls, every sound of the wind, everything carries a vibration that dialogues with the present moment. If you pay attention, you will feel that something wants to be said, not with words but with presence. I remember a true story, simple but powerful. A woman, in a moment of doubt about her life, goes out into the garden after a heavy rainstorm. She sees water collected in a corner, forming a dirty puddle that refuses to flow down the drain. She tries to push it with the toilet brush, but the water slides away, runs to the sides, goes back to where it was. And that's when she understands. The water is like her mind. If she doesn't guide it with intention, with direction, with clarity, her energy will flow to the lowest points. And that tells her everything about the moment she's living. It was life speaking to her through a puddle of water. How many times have you received messages like that and ignored them? A book falling off the shelf, opening to a specific page, an animal crossing your path at an important moment, a common object that suddenly seems to have much more meaning than it should. It's not superstition, it's symbolic language in action, and it gets stronger the more you allow your consciousness to actively participate in the present, because it's in the present that life reveals itself. The paradox of the yellow butterflies when fantasy sabotages alchemy, and it is precisely when you begin to see the world with symbolic eyes that a new danger approaches silently, disguised as spirituality. It is the point where many get lost, believing they are awakened, when in reality they have only exchanged a crude ignorance for a refined illusion. It is the moment when the mind, cunning and proud, hijacks the signs of life and begins to use them as a shield. The symbol ceases to be an invitation to transformation and becomes an excuse for not changing anything. This is the paradox of the yellow butterflies. An intelligent boy with all the tools to grow receives a concrete job offer, a real opportunity to mature, contribute, break out of stagnation. But he refuses, and the justification is almost poetic. While he was thinking about the decision, he saw a group of yellow butterflies pass in front of the window. And since butterflies symbolize freedom, he felt that the sign was the universe telling him to stay free, not tied to commitments. Sounds nice, doesn't it? It seems aligned with the language of the soul. But in reality, it is only the ego disguised as a mystic. The human mind is a voracious creator of stories, and when it wants to avoid the discomfort of change, it becomes a specialist in constructing convincing narratives. It distorts, it fantasizes, it transforms real symbols into justifications for staying exactly where it is. And so the symbol, which should be an arrow pointing upward, becomes an argument for staying on the ground. This is the most dangerous point of the symbolic journey. When you use the sacred to protect yourself from the pain of growing up, when you don't want to deal with your laziness, your escape, your procrastination, and then you interpret the signs in a convenient way, you start saying that it is intuition, that it is respect for your process, that it is connection with spirituality. But in truth, you are just avoiding the next step, and the symbol becomes fantasy, the call becomes denial, the butterfly becomes an excuse. The subtle part is that this does not happen because the person is bad or dishonest. It happens because he or she has not yet been educated in symbolic language with maturity. It mistakes everything it feels for truth, everything it wants for direction, everything it relieves for enlightenment. But the true symbol will never target the ego. It will never reinforce comfort zones. It will never say, stay as you are. The authentic symbol is demanding. It pushes you. It confronts you. It reveals to you a path that requires virtues you have not yet mastered. And that is precisely why many abandon it halfway, because it is easier to fantasize a sign than to face a true calling. It is easier to project desire than to embrace the pain of transformation. You only start reading symbols correctly when you are willing to hear what you don't want to hear, when you are ready to be uncomfortably honest with yourself, when you stop using spirituality as an argument for escaping life. At this point in the journey, the question is not, is this a sign, but rather, is this symbol calling me to be a better version of myself, to break free of what limits me, to face what I have been avoiding? If the answer is yes, you are on the right track. If not, perhaps it is just the ego in mystic's clothing whispering incense-scented apologies. Because it is not any interpretation that reveals the truth. It is the honest and disciplined gaze that can distinguish fantasy from the call. The butterfly may even pass in front of your window, but if it helps you stay where you are, it has stopped being a symbol. It has become a trap, and this is where many fall without realizing it. because here comes the secret key of the alchemists, the criterion of the human ideal. Realizing that the true symbol always points to our elevation is already a sign that something is changing inside us. And it is in that moment when you decide to really listen that reality begins to show the difference between those who fulfill their role in the great cycle of life and those who live trying to manipulate the game. Nature makes no mistakes. It does not need approval. It does not seek validation. It does not force the times. It does what it came to do. No excuses, no detours, no self-deception. This is Dharma. Observe the force of a storm. It does not ask permission to happen. It comes, it cleans, it shakes, it tears away what must fall. And finally it reveals a new landscape. The trees bend and then rise again. The heavy clouds give way to a clear sky. Even in the midst of destruction, there is a beauty that cannot be ignored. Because nature, even when it roars, does not abandon its center. It obeys the order of the cosmos. It follows the wisdom that came before us. It does not need to learn Dharma. It is Dharma in motion. Now look at what humans build in their eagerness to protect, dominate, profit. They disconnect. They build crooked buildings, accelerate cycles, forge paths based on haste and vanity. A newly built work already shows cracks. A project is born with the appearance of ruin. And it is not bad luck. It is karma. Karma is not punishment. It is a natural consequence of acting out of tune with the inner truth. It is the direct result of following the ego instead of the conscience. It is when the human stops being part of the order and becomes resistance to it. When we act without listening to the symbols, without feeling the rhythm of the soul, without understanding that every gesture shapes our frequency, we end up creating an artificial life. And what is artificial will collapse sooner or later. How many times have you felt like this, in the middle of an inner construction that seemed solid but suddenly collapsed? A relationship that seemed like love but was attachment, a job that seemed like a mission but was a prison, a path that seemed like evolution but was only repetition. All this is the effect of karma when we ignore the Dharma. But this pain does not come to punish, it comes to reveal. It is at this exact point that the real alchemy begins. And no, it doesn't start with gold. It starts with lead, with the density of your life, with what you wanted to avoid, hide, forget. The great transformation doesn't start when everything is clear. It starts the moment you finally look at the chaos and decide to decipher it. It's when you agree to see meaning in the pain. It's when the symbol is no longer just an external enigma, but an internal mirror. That conflict, that repetitive pattern, that anguish that keeps coming back. All of this is raw material, and the alchemy begins when you stop running away and start asking, what is it trying to teach me? The 7 levels of the symbol, the path to the plane of ideas, the same image, the same scene, the same word. But something has changed. It has changed because you have changed. What once seemed only a detail now pulsates like a call. The true symbol is never flat. It is deep. It is a ladder within you. And Helena Blavatsky made this clear. Each symbol is a hidden abode with 7 doors, 7 levels of understanding, 7 layers of consciousness. Each one reveals itself only when you climb a step within yourself. It is not about interpreting with your mind. It is about accessing with your being. The symbol does not give you everything at once because it is pedagogical. It teaches as you become capable of understanding. A symbol that once seemed beautiful then confronts you. Later, it guides you. And at the right time, it heals you. It does not change itself. It changes your vision. These 7 doors are not external. They are in your vibrational field. Every time you transmute something inside, a trauma, a belief, a pain, a new layer opens. You begin to perceive that there is something beyond the form, beyond the surface, and that perception does not come from the intellect, but from the soul. It comes as a deep silence, a light shiver, and I already knew it, that comes without words. The symbol speaks a living language. it transforms in real time with your evolution. What was metaphor becomes instruction. What was doubt becomes direction. And suddenly everything around you begins to organize itself symbolically. Life becomes an open book written in codes, but only those who are prepared can read it. Only those who are clean enough inside not to distort what they receive can access it, because every symbolic layer is also a test. The first gate shows you what moves you emotionally, the second what challenges you, the third what demands action. From the fourth on, you begin to disappear as an ego and see the symbol as something that flows through you. Something that transforms you even if you don't want it to. Something that shows you that the meaning of life is not in the answers, but in the layers of presence you build with them. And when you finally pass through the seventh gate, not in a hurry, not with pride, but with alchemical humility, the symbol no longer speaks to you, it inhabits you, you become you. It's no longer about decoding, it's about being. At that point, the true alchemist stops being a seeker of signs and becomes a sign. The work is completed when you stop living trying to interpret the world and start being a presence that transforms it simply by existing. You do not force, you do not teach, you do not impose. You embody, and what is embodied vibrates, and what vibrates awakens. You become a living verb. Your voice changes frequency. Your silence has weight. Your actions begin to align with what you are inside. You no longer need to convince anyone. Your life is the proof. Alchemy stops being a theory and becomes your way of breathing, walking, touching others. Your existence becomes a mirror, and simply by existing, you awaken those around you. You have discovered the deepest secret of the great work. You are not the protagonist, but the channel through which the invisible becomes reality. Alchemy does not aim to make you special, but to transform you into a sacred bridge between worlds, where each of your wounds is revealed as a necessary reagent, each failure as a crucible of transmutation, each pain as an instrument of elevation. What emerges from this process is no longer the small self, but the pure essence, a living presence that embodies the symbol. Now that the first veil has fallen, the next step reveals itself. If you have come this far, it is because the universe has already prepared the ground. Click a like. If these words have touched your most authentic core, leave a comment with the first word that blossomed inside you while reading, not a pleasantry, but a fragment of your inner language, and subscribe if you feel that this dialogue must continue. I'll wait for you at the next crossroads, when you'll find that sign so clear that it will make you smile in recognition, when you'll wake up with the certainty that everything is in the right place. Until then, walk with eyes that see beyond, an open heart and light steps. The world is constantly talking. It's up to you to choose to listen. See you where the path becomes brighter.